Penn State football on a tear here at the end of July. It's the Lash Bash. If you want to know more about what's going on this weekend, we're talking about the biggest commitment of the weekend right now here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel on Thomas Frank Carr. Sean Fitz is going to get into that here in 1 second. But the most important thing you can do right now is subscribe to Blue White Illustrated, code PSU1, 2 months for $1. You can go to the Lash Bash recruiting thread on the Lions Den message forum. You can keep up to date with what's going on. A very important weekend, the last recruiting weekend of the summer, and Penn State is doing some business, Sean Fitz. So welcome to the show. How are things going for you on this very busy weekend? And tell the Penn State fans the good news.
You can hear it in your voice. Your head's on a swivel. I pulled you from a family reunion that you're hosting. I know you're on short rest, but I went to the bullpen, tapped the right arm. I said, T-Frank, we got to do this. This is big, and this is big. Penn State with 2 commitments today. And unfortunately, we're probably going to gloss over a little bit of one because the latest one is Harrisburg offensive tackle Kevin Brown. And if you've watched this show at all, when we've talked about 2026 prospects or Pennsylvania prospects or any offensive lineman in general, you know how big of a fan collectively we are of Kevin Brown, because I think he's the best prospect in Pennsylvania. I think he, no disrespect to anybody that's come through here, is the best offensive lineman from that area in a long time. I know Cooper Cousins is kind of a different area, so we're going to take that separate branch there. But in the mid-state, they don't come much better than Kevin Brown. This is a guy that's built himself up. He's got the genes. His father, Tim, was an offensive lineman at West Virginia in the NFL. He knows how to do things. And if you look at him, he's not a 300-pounder. He's not a guy that is 6'7" with 34, 35-inch arms. He is a guy that gets it done because he knows how to play football. He plays both ways. And just an excellent, there are very few shortcomings in the way that he has built himself up to be one of the best offensive line prospects in the country. And now Penn State's top commit in the class of 2026, which is off to a hot start.
Yeah, there's some freaky stuff that he's able to do at his size, his athleticism. Here you can see on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. This is one of those elite explosive things when you're jumping out of the pool onto the deck. I mean, Fitz,
Frank,
come on.
Two things here. First, I thought you had opened up and put one of your family reunion videos in there and everyone jumping out of the pool. Number 2, you're going to summon the ghost of Dakota Royer, and I don't know if you know what's coming for you because I don't think you were covering Penn State at that point, but that's coming your way. You're the one that picked this. But Kevin Brown, extremely good athlete. Again, good football player, just a total package. There aren't too many guys, and I think I said this on the show the other day, there aren't too many offensive linemen that you can look at and say, I'm pretty sure this guy is going to be a success. But you look at what Kevin Brown does, and I've watched him live in camp. He's done it with pads on. He's done it in T-shirts and shorts. He's done it in every situation possible. And he is one of my favorite prospects in 2026 and has been for a long, long time.
Yeah, and you saw earlier here on the show, I always put up the ranking graphic of where he is in the industry ranking, where he is for on 3, and it's a near consensus, 37 overall, 3rd offensive lineman in the country for 2026, 28 for overall for on 3, 99th for 247, 68th for ESPN, rivals is 35. So there's a consensus that this is a top 100 to top 40 player in the country for 2026. And this is something we talked about. I think on the Thursday show, I mentioned there are like Pennsylvania as a state. You mentioned Cooper Cousins has been putting out some of these exceptionally athletic, exceptionally talented offensive linemen. And Penn State has been able to capitalize on some of these guys and getting them not only to commit, but, in the case of Cooper Cousins and now Kevin Brown, to get them to commit early. So how important is that for a guy who's in state, and this isn't dragging out? He's made his decision now for the Nittany Lions over a year out in his recruiting.
So a ton of credit to Ryan Snyder here. He sniffed this one out, and the feedback that he got was Kevin really wasn't into the recruiting scene. He didn't want to do all this. He didn't want, his season's coming up. He's focused on that. That's a great sign to me, maturity and all that kind of stuff that comes through with it. So if you want to make that decision now and go with it. And boy, it's certainly a big deal for Penn State. Going back to the rankings, he's rated as an interior prospect. He's going to play tackle at Penn State. You look at his makeup, and he's, right on the borderline in terms of tackle. He's 6'5", 260. His arms are maybe shading interior a little bit more, but he makes up for that with his feet. And I think he can play tackle at this level, play tackle at an extremely high level. So it'll be fun to see. I also love the aspects that nobody wants to talk about, that there's a white kid at Harrisburg High. Like, he's learning to be tough like his father was before him. And I'm very intrigued to see how that comes through. He's not at McDivitt. He's not at some of these other schools in the mid-state where he could transfer. He has stuck it out there, and he's played pretty physical, pretty tough football. So I'm excited to see his progression over the next year. Again, this is a guy I saw as a freshman at camp, and he's about 220 pounds, and you could see it then, and you can't do that with many people. And I just love the potential that he brings in, and it's a big grab for Phil Troutwine, who's still trying to fill out his 2025 class. But it's a big group for Penn State. You got Messiah Mickens, who's his now teammate at Harrisburg. So I think Ryan's probably going to be a regular at those games. You've got Troy Hune, who is committed, and then you've got Jahsiear Rogers, who joined the group earlier on Saturday. So Penn State's start to the 2026 class eerily similar to the 2022 class. Where they struggled in 2021, then all of a sudden things took off. So Penn State, for all the qualms, for all the criticisms and everything with recruiting, and I think a lot of it, warranted, looking at that 2025 class, that 2026 class has flipped the script very quickly.
Yeah, it's got the potential to be elite in a lot of different ways. And Kevin Brown puts just a nice early tent pole in the ground. And some of the things that I've really liked about watching Kevin Brown is I've been with you guys on this guy is physical. This guy is nasty. You're watching the highlights here. He's a finisher. He's strong for his size. I love guys that punch above their weight. But one of the things, just looking at him, he's got a little bit of tight hips. He's got a little bit of those things, and he's worked through that. He has gotten so much better and impressive. Some of the highlights we saw early in camp, those camp highlights, again, provided by Ryan Snyder in the region for those Harrisburg camps. He's a good pass protector. He's aware. He's got, good technique for his age. A dad who's an offensive lineman, so he's being taught the right way how to do all of these little things. So you mentioned the comfort and the confidence that you have that this is a guy who isn't going to miss. Nobody's 100%, but you really love the things he's doing, including, which you mentioned earlier, not a guy who's 300 pounds, but has progressed the right way. 225, 245. Now he's up to 260 on the On3 industry database. And you can see that he's going to project to be a guy who's going to have the right muscling, the right definition throughout his body, be athletic, and be able to play four positions if they need him to. You want him to play tackle, but he's got the ability with his athleticism and his strength to play either tackle position or go on the interior. So a guy who is going to be Fitz, do you think he can get to 5-star status with some of the things we talked about in terms of frame when you're really splitting hairs at the top? He seems like a guy who has the athletic potential. Do you think he can reach that level where he's currently projected?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he's a 5-star prospect, and I think that some of those things that are knocking him, like I said, I think I said on the show this week, he's Michael Mennett with a better frame. Like, Michael was always on the radar, just similar to Kevin Brown, both ways, played excellent both ways. He just never grew into the guy that he never became 6'4", 6'5", like we thought he was going to be at some point. Now Kevin Brown, he's there. So I think that he's going to be there. He's gone to some national showcases, and Alabama, Georgia, these schools wanted him. Like, this is not a situation where, he's just another check mark there. It's, I tell you what, it's a big pickup for Penn State. I think he's going to end up a 5-star if everything continues on this plane.
Yeah, and I was just about to go and say how many offers he has, but it's like 15 plus at this point, and they're all the best schools in the country. So bottom line.
He hasn't done a ton of the branding, recruiting, and all that kind of stuff. And I think he's kind of kept it low key. So I appreciate the way he's handled it as well.
So last thing, let's just touch it. We have a separate video, a quick hitter about Penn State's commit earlier in the day. But while we're here, we might as well talk about 2026, a guy that you highlighted on the Thursday show. Can you give us a little bit about Jahsiear Rogers and what you know about that situation?
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm looking down at my phone. My laptop's on fire. It's a busy weekend, so check out BlueIllustrated.com because there's a lot going on. Yes, Jahsiear Rogers, a speedster from Delaware. Not a ton of people heard about him coming into the weekend. I posted earlier this week, and we had him. We had it on the show. There's a lot of speed here. There's a lot of speed to work with. 4.3 at Penn State at camp this summer, including huge explosion numbers and things like that. He is from Delaware. We're going to talk about him more in the future because I got to bounce here and post this story. But he is from Delaware, and he's been productive. He's got some better size than you would think. He's not a 5'8" sprinter, but he can move. So Penn State excited to get him on board, and we're going to talk a little bit more wide receiver recruiting. Hey, why not? That'd be a new thing for us.
Yeah, Fitz isn't done. He's just on here right now. There's all kinds of stuff going on at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. There's more camp information that he's got to get to. So we are going to wrap things up. But as always, if you're watching here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss any Titanic news, like the top regional offensive tackle that Penn State has targeted joining the Nittany Lions during the Lash Bash Barbecue. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. He is Sean Fitz. We will be back with the next one when there's breaking news from Penn State football.